This is Noita, an amazing roguelike where you play as a witch that dies. A lot. And it turns out, gamers love dying, because Noita has racked up over 70,000 positive reviews since its release in October 2020. I've spent the last several years discovering every bizarre and hilarious way to perish, getting set on fire, melted by acid, crushed by falling debris. You name it, I've died from it. But through all of my many, many deaths, there's been one thing that has always bugged me. What is the purpose of the minecart? Today, we're finally going to get to the bottom of Noita's most unnecessary, yet strangely fascinating mystery. Let's dive in. We know that history repeats itself, so it made sense to go back and look at the first form of rideable elements in video games to begin with. The most well-known early example? That would be Joust, released in 1982 by Williams Electronics. In Joust, you didn't just run and jump, you rode a giant flapping ostrich, using your momentum and positioning to knock enemies off their own flying mounts. The unique gravity and flapping mechanics made it challenging, but also endlessly entertaining. And while it may seem primitive now, this was one of the earliest rideable mechanics that set the stage for many games to come. Fast forward to 1983, and Congo Bongo gave us another rideable mount. This time, a stage where the player could hop onto a hippo to cross water. Maybe not the most practical means of transportation, but hey, when a game lets you ride a hippo, you ride the hippo. Then came Space Harrier in 1985, where the protagonist ditched traditional mounts altogether and instead soared through the air on a jet-propelled cannon. And can I just say, playing this game on the Game Gear during long car rides was peak childhood. And then, of course, we had Golden Axe in 1989. Who could forget those mounts? Whether you were riding the chicken leg and tail-whipping enemies into oblivion or hopping onto a fire-breathing dragon, these rideable creatures weren't just for show. They were an essential part of the combat, turning a standard hack and slash into something even more chaotic and enjoyable. Then, in 1991, some of us were unfortunate enough to own a copy of Bart vs. the Space Mutants on the NES. And yes, technically Bart could ride a skateboard, but it usually only lasted for about 3 seconds for reasons. The 80s and 90s were a trip. You had rental stores filled with games that you picked based on the box art alone, only to get home and realize that it was going to be a very rough weekend with Bart and the space aliens. And you had those wild third-party controllers with turbo buttons that made all your Mega Man dreams come true. And if you were lucky, you had a Game Boy with a worm light attachment so you could play well into the evening hours without getting caught. And don't even get me started on the battery life of the Game Gear. You either had a wall adapter, a cigarette lighter charger, or you were burning through 6 AA batteries in record time. But all of it, the struggles, the weird game mechanics, the cheap deaths, it was part of the charm, and we loved it. We didn't question why a game let you ride an ostrich or a dragon, we just did it. Because games then weren't always about making sense. They were about fun. Which brings me back to Noita, a game that understands fun, and also understands that sometimes things don't have to make sense. There was only one thing left to do now. Reach out to Nala Games to find out the truth. Why is this minecart here? Was it placed in the game to show off the incredible physics engine? Is it a quirky developer joke? Or does it have some hidden purpose that we just haven't figured out yet? Of course, there's always that lingering thought in the back of your mind. What if they don't reply? What if the minecart's true purpose is destined to remain one of gaming's great unsolved mysteries, like the cow level in Diablo, or Bigfoot in San Andreas? But I had to try, because if there's one thing Noita has taught me, it's that sometimes you just need to embrace the chaos and see what happens. And then, it happened.
Welcome. You've got mail.
I had received a message back from one of the developers. I don't remember the exact details, but I did look it up, and Minecart.xml was added to the game November 30th of 2015. Around the same time, we were working on adding kicking into the game, so I assume it was added as a showcase or a test object to play around with the kick. First, they were just scattered around in the mines. The cave entrance was added to the game later, and at the beginning there was a chest there in the cave entrance. Then there was an explosive box, and then some barrels and a minecart. I remember that the box could explode when you kicked it. It was later still, around January 2018, when we added the glowing tutorial stones that tell you the controls of the game, including instructions for kicking. I think we still had only a third of a chance of spawning the minecart. It was later when we noticed how much more fun it was to just kick the minecart instead of the barrels, so we changed it to be only minecart. It was near early access release that we added the wooden cart, and it was shortly after the early access release that we added the skateboard. The physics of riding down objects didn't quite exist back in 2015. If I remember correctly, the player didn't inherit the velocity from the objects they were standing on, so that was added later, but I don't remember the timeline for that. And there you have it. Sometimes a minecart is just a minecart, but in Noita, that doesn't make it any less special. Because whether you're kicking it, riding it, or accidentally getting crushed by it, the minecart is a perfect example of what makes Noita so great. It's chaotic, it's unpredictable, and it's just plain fun. In a game where almost everything can kill you, sometimes it's the smallest, silliest objects that leave the biggest impression. So the next time you come across that rickety minecart in the caverns of Noita, hop in, give it a push, and see what happens. You never know. It might just be the ride of your life. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit the like button. It'll help more people see this. And feel free to leave a comment if there are any mysteries in your favorite roguelikes or roguelites that you'd like to see solved in the future. And if you enjoy roguelikes and roguelites, well, so do we, and we'd love you to hang out on a more permanent basis. Consider subscribing. Thanks again, take care, and enjoy the rest of your day.